Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at AI-driven drug discovery. You've given us a really interesting mix of sources, including parts of an ebook and a whole bunch of research articles. It seems like you're really interested in how AI is changing the game when it comes to pharmaceutical science.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch this field just explode in the last few
Yeah,
years.
absolutely.
We're seeing AI being used in almost every stage of drug development now, from, finding those promising targets to predicting toxicity and even repurposing drugs that are already out there. And I think the exciting part is we're past the theoretical stage. We're actually seeing real, tangible
Yeah,
results.
that's what jumped out at me from these sources, too. It's not just a sci-fi concept anymore.
Right.
There are concrete examples of AI helping discover new drug candidates,
Right.
making existing ones better, and even predicting how a drug will act in the body.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not just one type of AI either. Researchers are using a whole toolbox of approaches. For example, natural language processing, or NLP, can sift through tons of scientific papers to find potential drug targets. We've got machine learning crunching omics data, that's data about genes, proteins, and the molecules involved in our bodies to uncover patterns and biomarkers. And then we even have algorithms that can analyze the 3D structure of molecules to predict how they might interact with a target protein.
Okay, I'm already feeling a little smarter, but with all this information, where do we even begin?
Well, let's break down how AI is being used at each step of the drug discovery process. We'll look at the specific methods, the types of data they use, and even some of the limitations and challenges. And of course, we'll dive into some specific examples where AI has led to breakthroughs. I think you'll be amazed by what you learn.
Let's do it. I'm especially curious about that first stage, target identification. It seems like finding the right biological molecule to go after is really the foundation of the whole drug discovery process. The ebook mentions that AI is playing a big role here, especially using something called natural language processing. Can you explain exactly what that means?
So imagine you have a massive library filled with millions of scientific articles, all exploring the complexities of biology and disease. Now, imagine trying to read through all of that to find the specific pieces of information that could help you develop a new drug.
Yeah.
It would be a monumental task.
It sounds like a research nightmare.
Exactly. That's where natural language processing, or NLP, comes in. It's like having a super efficient research assistant that can rapidly scan through all that literature and extract the most relevant information. Essentially, we're teaching computers to understand and analyze human language.
So instead of a scientist spending years poring over research papers, an AI can do the heavy lifting. That's incredible, but how does it actually work?
Think of it like this. NLP algorithms are designed to break down text into individual words or phrases, analyze the relationships between them, and ultimately understand the meaning behind the text. This allows them to extract key insights from those mountains of scientific papers.
So it's not just about finding keywords. The AI actually understands the context and the connections between those words.
That's the key difference. It's not just simple keyword matching. These NLP models can recognize that a specific protein, for example, is associated with a particular disease pathway, even if the exact phrase drug target isn't explicitly mentioned in the text. They can infer those connections based on the broader context and the relationships between words and concepts.
That's pretty mind-blowing. What kind of specific information can these NLP models actually pull out from all that text? Give me some concrete examples.
Well, one of the most valuable things they can do is identify potential drug targets. These are proteins, genes, or other biological molecules that play a key role in a disease process. NLP can sift through the research and pinpoint which molecules are most likely to be promising targets for drug development.
So it's like the AI is highlighting the most important players in the disease process. That seems incredibly helpful for researchers who are trying to figure out where to focus their efforts.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding new targets. NLP can also help us understand existing drugs better. It can uncover relationships between drugs and their side effects, or even predict how a drug might interact with different biological pathways. This kind of information can be invaluable for repurposing existing drugs or for developing safer and more effective treatments.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this technology is. But the ebook also mentioned using AI to analyze something called omics data. Can you break down what that is and how AI comes into play there?
Think of omics data as a massive snapshot of what's happening inside a cell or an organism at a molecular level. This includes things like genomics, which looks at DNA, transcriptomics, which focuses on RNA, proteomics, which analyzes proteins, and metabolomics, which studies the small molecules involved in metabolism. These omics data sets are incredibly complex, often involving thousands of variables, making them very difficult to analyze using traditional methods.
I can imagine that trying to sift through all that data manually would be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So how does AI make this process more manageable?
That's where machine learning algorithms really shine. They excel at finding patterns in large, complex data sets. In the context of omics data, these algorithms can identify which genes, proteins, or metabolites are behaving differently in a disease state compared to a healthy state.
So it's like comparing two snapshots, one of a healthy system and one of a disease system, and seeing what's changed at the molecular level.
That's a great way to put it. And those changes can point towards potential drug targets. For example, if a particular protein is significantly overexpressed in cancer cells compared to healthy cells, that protein could be a good target for a drug that aims to inhibit its activity.
That makes sense. But with so many variables in these omics data sets, how can we be sure that the AI is picking out the truly important changes? How do we avoid getting false positives?
That's a crucial question. It's all about using the right algorithms and, even more importantly, making sure the data is clean and accurate. Researchers use a variety of statistical techniques to pre-process the data, select the most relevant features, and validate the model's predictions.
So it's a multi-step process. AI can help identify potential targets by finding those telltale differences in the omics data, but scientists still need to verify those findings through experiments in the lab.
Precisely. It's about using AI to guide research and make the process more efficient and targeted.
This is fascinating. We've talked about NLP and omics data, two very different approaches to target identification. The ebook also mentions something called molecular similarity approaches. What can you tell me about those?
Molecular similarity methods are based on the idea that if a molecule has a similar structure to a known drug, it might also have similar biological activity. It's like saying, if it fits in the same receptor, it might have the same effect.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic there.
Yeah.
So how does AI help us find these molecular lookalikes?
AI can analyze vast databases of chemical structures and identify molecules that are structurally similar to known drugs or to molecules that are known to interact with a specific target. It's like a massive chemical matchmaking service.
So it's helping us find potential drug candidates by looking for molecules that share a similar chemical fingerprint with molecules we already know something about.
You got it. And this approach can be particularly useful for drug repurposing, which is finding new uses for existing drugs. It's a much faster and more cost-effective way to develop new treatments because we're essentially skipping many of the early stages of drug development.
That's brilliant. It's like taking a medication that's already been tested and approved for one purpose and finding new ways to use it. It seems like that could save a lot of time and resources. But how exactly does AI do this chemical matchmaking? What's going on under the hood?
One popular approach is using something called graph neural networks, or GNNs. These are a special type of AI algorithm that's specifically designed to analyze graphs. In this case, the graph represents the molecular structure of a compound. GNNs can learn the relationships between atoms and bonds within a molecule and use that information to predict the properties and potential activity of that molecule.
So it's like the AI is learning the language of chemistry and using that knowledge to find molecules that are likely to interact with our target in the way we want.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about finding molecules that look similar. It's about understanding the underlying chemical properties and interactions that drive biological activity.
My brain is officially doing backflips. We've covered NLP, omics data, and molecular similarity approaches. It seems like AI is being used everywhere in target identification. The ebook also briefly mentions something called network pharmacology. Could you give us a quick overview of what that is?
Network pharmacology is a fascinating approach that looks at drug discovery from a systems biology perspective. Instead of focusing on individual molecules, it considers the complex web of interactions that happen within a biological system.
So it's like looking at the entire forest instead of just one tree.
Exactly. Network pharmacology uses AI to analyze biological networks. Think of things like protein interaction networks, metabolic pathways, or gene regulatory networks. By understanding these networks, we can identify key points of intervention that could be targeted with drugs to have a broader impact on the disease process.
So instead of just targeting one protein, we could target a whole pathway or a critical hub within a network. That seems like it could be more effective and maybe even lead to fewer side effects.
That's the idea. It's about taking a more holistic view of how diseases work and how drugs can intervene in those processes.
This has been an amazing overview of how AI is being used in target identification. It's clear that this is just the tip of the iceberg. But before we move on to the next stage of drug discovery, can we step back and talk about how researchers evaluate these different AI models? How do they know if a model is actually good at finding those promising drug targets?
That's a crucial question. It's not enough for an AI model to just generate a list of potential targets. We need to be confident that those targets are actually worth pursuing. And that's where model evaluation comes in.
So how do researchers determine if an AI model is actually up to the task? What are they looking for?
There are several key metrics that researchers use to assess the performance of these AI models. One of the most important is predictive accuracy. How well do the model's predictions align with what's actually observed in the lab? For example, if the AI model predicts that a certain molecule is a good drug target, does that prediction hold up when scientists actually test that molecule in experiments?
So it's not just about generating hypotheses, it's about how well those AI-generated hypotheses hold up in the real world.
Exactly. Another important metric is robustness. This refers to how stable and reliable the model is when faced with new data or changes in the input parameters. A robust model will consistently perform well even when faced with slight variations in the data.
So a robust model is less likely to be thrown off by noisy data or slight variations in the experimental conditions. That seems incredibly important for real-world applications where things are rarely perfectly controlled.
Absolutely. Researchers also look at the sensitivity and specificity of a model. Sensitivity refers to how well the model can correctly identify positive cases, in this case, true drug targets. Specificity, on the other hand, measures how well the model can correctly identify negative cases, molecules that are not likely to be good drug targets.
It sounds like finding a good balance between sensitivity and specificity is key. You want a model that can find the promising targets without getting bogged down by too many false positives.
You got it. Ideally, we want a model that's both sensitive and specific, a model that can accurately identify the true targets while minimizing the number of false leads.
Okay, so those are some of the key metrics. But beyond just looking at the numbers, what else do researchers consider when evaluating these AI models for drug discovery?
One crucial factor is interpretability. Can we understand how the model is making its predictions? This is particularly important in drug discovery because scientists need to understand the reasoning behind a model's predictions to make informed decisions about which targets to pursue and how to design experiments to validate those predictions.
So it's not enough for the model to just spit out a list of potential targets. Scientists need to understand the why behind those predictions.
Precisely. They need to be able to look under the hood of the model and see how it arrived at its conclusions. This helps build trust in the model's predictions and allows scientists to incorporate their own expertise and knowledge into the process.
This all makes perfect sense. But let's be honest, AI models can be pretty complex, especially those deep learning models. How can scientists make sure these models are transparent and interpretable? Seems like a tough challenge.
It is a challenge, but it's one that researchers are actively working on. That's where the field of explainable AI, or XAI, comes in. Researchers are developing new techniques to make AI models more transparent and understandable, even for those complex, deep learning models.
So it's like creating a user manual for the AI so scientists can understand how it works and feel confident in its predictions.
That's a great analogy. Explainable AI is a really important area of research because it helps build trust and confidence in AI-driven drug discovery. And that trust is essential if we want to fully realize the potential of AI in this field.
I can definitely see how that's crucial, especially when we're talking about something as important as developing new drugs that can impact people's lives. We've talked about evaluating AI models in a general sense, but are there any specific strengths and weaknesses we should consider when comparing the different approaches we've discussed? For example, are there particular models that are better suited for NLP tasks versus analyzing omics data?
That's a great question. Each AI architecture comes with its own set of strengths and weaknesses, making them more or less suitable for specific tasks. For instance, when it comes to analyzing mountains of text data for NLP tasks in drug discovery, transformer-based models have become incredibly popular and effective. Specifically, models based on BERT, which stands for bidirectional encoder representations from transformers, have revolutionized the field.
BERT, huh? Sounds more like a friendly robot than a complex AI model.
Maybe. But it's definitely a powerful tool for analyzing the vast amount of text data in drug discovery. BERT's strength lies in its ability to capture the nuances of language and understand the context of words and phrases. This makes it particularly well-suited for extracting meaningful insights from scientific literature.
Okay, so BERT is the go-to for NLP. What about analyzing those complex omics datasets? What kind of AI models excel in that arena?
When we're dealing with omics data, which is often high-dimensional and incredibly complex, different models come into play. Convolutional neural networks, or CNNs, are often used for analyzing spatial data like images. They've also been successfully applied to omics data, finding patterns and making predictions based on the relationships between different data points.
So it's like the AI is looking for visual patterns in the data, even though it's not actually an image?
Exactly. And then there's another type of model called multi-layer perceptrons, or MLPs. These are particularly good at handling high-dimensional data, making them well-suited for analyzing omics datasets, which often contain thousands of variables.
It sounds like it's all about choosing the right tool for the job. What about molecular similarity and network pharmacology? Are there particular models that stand out in those areas?
For molecular similarity tasks, those graph neural networks, or GNNs we talked about earlier, are really making waves. They excel at analyzing the relationships between atoms and bonds in a molecule, which is crucial for predicting molecular properties and activity. They're like the master chemists of the AI world.
I love that analogy. And as for network pharmacology, it's probably no surprise that GNNs are also widely used there, given their ability to analyze complex networks and identify key hubs or bottlenecks. But we're also seeing transformer models being used in this space to analyze the flow of information and context within biological networks.
That's right. It seems like GNNs are becoming the real workhorses of AI-driven drug discovery, popping up in all sorts of applications.
They definitely seem to be a versatile tool, but it's important to remember that no single AI model is perfect. Each has its strengths and limitations, and it's up to researchers to carefully evaluate the task at hand and choose the most appropriate model for the job.
I couldn't agree more. It's about using the right tool for the right problem and understanding the strengths and limitations of each approach.
This has been an incredible overview of how AI is being used in target identification, from NLP to omics analysis, molecular similarity, and even network pharmacology. It's clear that AI is playing a transformative role in this crucial stage of drug discovery. But before we move on to the next stage, what are some of the key takeaways for our listener? Why should they care about all of this?
Well, one of the biggest takeaways is that AI is dramatically accelerating the drug discovery process. By automating tasks that used to take months or even years, AI can help bring new treatments to patients faster, which is a huge win for everyone.
That's a really compelling point. Faster drug discovery translates to potentially saving more lives. What else should our listener keep in mind?
Another key takeaway is that AI isn't just about speed, it's also about making drug discovery more efficient and cost-effective. By reducing the time and resources needed to identify promising drug targets, AI has the potential to lower the overall cost of developing new drugs.
That's a big deal. Lower drug development costs could make medications more affordable and accessible to a wider range of people. And it could free up resources to pursue more challenging diseases or develop even more innovative treatments.
Exactly. And perhaps the most exciting aspect of AI in drug discovery is its potential to lead to more effective and personalized treatments. By understanding the complexities of biological systems and identifying more precise drug targets, AI can help us develop treatments that are tailored to individual patients and their specific needs.
That's the dream, isn't it? Personalized medicine, where treatments are customized to your unique genetic makeup and lifestyle. It sounds like something out of science fiction, but it seems like AI is bringing us closer to that reality.
It's a really exciting time to be working in this field. The possibilities are truly endless.
This has been a fantastic deep dive into target identification. I'm already feeling inspired by the potential of AI to transform this stage of drug discovery.
It's truly amazing to see how far we've come and how much more is yet to be discovered.
Now, are you ready to move on to the next stage of the drug discovery pipeline? Lead discovery and optimization. We've got a stack of research articles waiting to be explored.
Absolutely. I can't wait to dive into those. So lead discovery and optimization, this is where things start to get really interesting.
Okay.
Once we've identified that promising target, right, the next step is to find a molecule that can actually hit that target and produce the desired effect. So it's like we've identified the bullseye, now we need to craft the arrow.
I love that analogy. It's a great way to visualize the transition between those two stages of drug discovery.
Yeah.
So how is AI kind of shaking things up in the world of lid discovery and optimization?
Well, AI is making a big impact here. One way is through something called AI-enhanced high-throughput screening, or HTS.
Okay,
This is like traditional high-throughput screening, but with a, turbocharged AI engine under the hood.
okay, break that down for me. What exactly does AI-enhanced HTS involve?
Imagine you have this massive library of chemical compounds, potentially millions of them. The goal is to find the ones that are most likely to be active against our target. Traditionally, this involved testing, thousands or even millions of compounds in the lab, which could be incredibly time-consuming and expensive. AI-enhanced HTS changes the game by using algorithms to analyze the chemical structures and properties of these compounds and predict which ones are most likely to be worth testing in the lab.
So it's like having an AI scout that can quickly scan the field and tell you which players are worth drafting for your team.
That's a great analogy. It's about prioritizing the most promising compounds and focusing lab efforts on those, making the whole process much more efficient.
I can see how that would be a huge time and cost saver. But how does AI actually make these predictions? What kind of information is it using, and how does it process that information?
So the AI models used in AI-enhanced HTS are trained on data that includes information about the chemical structures of the compounds, as well as any available experimental data about their biological activity. This data can come from previous experiments, public databases, or even scientific literature.
So it's like the AI is learning from all the collective knowledge we've accumulated about these compounds and using that knowledge to make informed predictions about which ones are most likely to be hits.
Exactly. And the specific algorithms used can vary depending on the specific task and the available data. Some common approaches include like random forests, support vector machines, and even those powerful deep learning models like graph neural networks and convolutional neural networks that we talked about earlier.
It seems like those models are showing up everywhere in drug discovery. They really are the all-stars of the AI toolkit.
They definitely are. They're incredibly versatile and powerful tools for analyzing complex data and making predictions.
Okay, so we've got the AI making predictions about which compounds are worth testing. What happens next in this AI-enhanced HDS process? Do scientists just take the AI's word for it and start running experiments?
Not quite.
Okay.
While AI can be incredibly helpful in prioritizing compounds, it's important to remember that AI models are not perfect. Their predictions need to be validated in the real world. So once the AI has identified the most promising compounds, those compounds are then tested in the lab to confirm their activity against the target.
So it's a collaborative process between AI and scientists.
Exactly.
The AI helps narrow down the search and prioritize the most promising candidates, and then scientists step in to do that experimental validation and fine-tune the process.
That's exactly right. It's about using AI to guide research and make the process more efficient, not to replace the expertise and judgment of scientists.
This makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned that AI-enhanced HTS can significantly speed up and streamline the drug discovery process. Are there any other advantages to using this approach over traditional HTS methods?
Absolutely. One big advantage is that AI-enhanced HTS can help us discover new drug candidates that might have been overlooked by traditional methods.
Okay.
AI algorithms can identify patterns and relationships in data that humans might miss, leading to the discovery of novel compounds with therapeutic potential.
So it's not just about doing what we've always done, just faster. It's about using AI to open up new possibilities and explore chemical space in a way that wasn't possible before.
That's exactly right. AI is allowing us to explore areas of chemical space that were previously uncharted, potentially leading to the discovery of entirely new classes of drugs.
This is incredibly exciting. It sounds like AI-enhanced HTS is a real game changer for drug discovery.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about the other side of the coin. What are some of the limitations or challenges of this approach? What should researchers be aware of as they're using AI in this way?
One of the biggest challenges is data quality and availability. As with any AI application, the quality of the data used to train the models is paramount. If the data is incomplete, inaccurate, or biased, the model's predictions will suffer.
So it's that same garbage in, garbage out principle that we talked about earlier. If we're feeding the AI bad data, we can't expect it to spit out good results.
Exactly. Another challenge is the inherent complexity of biological systems. Even the most sophisticated AI models can't fully capture the complexity of how drugs interact with the human body.
Right.
There's so many variables at play, genetics, lifestyle, environmental factors. It's impossible to predict with 100% certainty how a drug will behave in a living organism.
So while AI can be incredibly powerful for prioritizing compounds and guiding research, it's crucial to remember that it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Experimental validation is still essential to confirm the AI's predictions and ensure the safety and efficacy of any potential drug candidates.
I couldn't agree more. AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet. It's about using AI to guide research and make the process more efficient and effective, not to replace the expertise of scientists.
This has been a fantastic overview of AI-enhanced high-throughput screening. It's clear that this technology is already having a significant impact on drug discovery. But the research articles you provided also mentioned another approach for lead discovery and optimization: structure-based drug design. Can you tell me more about that?
So structure-based drug design, or SBDD, is a really fascinating approach that takes advantage of knowing the 3D structure of a target protein to design drugs that can specifically interact with that target. It's like having a blueprint of the lock and then designing a key that fits perfectly.
I love that analogy. It really helps to visualize how this approach works. So instead of screening millions of compounds randomly, we're using the target structure as a guide to design a drug that's tailor-made to fit that specific target.
Exactly. And while SBDD has been around for a while, AI is now being used to automate and accelerate many of the steps involved, making the process even more powerful.
That sounds like a real game changer. What are some specific ways that AI is being used to, supercharge structure-based drug design?
One common application is virtual screening.
Okay.
AI algorithms can analyze huge databases of chemical structures and identify those that are most likely to bind to the target protein based on its 3D structure. So this is similar to high-throughput screening, but done in a virtual world.
So instead of physically testing thousands of compounds in the lab, we're using AI to simulate those interactions and identify the most promising candidates.
Precisely. And this can save a tremendous amount of time and resources, allowing researchers to focus their efforts on the most promising leads.
Okay, so virtual screening is one way that AI is being used. What other tasks can AI help with in structure-based drug design?
Another important application is in lead optimization. Once a potential drug candidate has been identified, AI algorithms can analyze its interactions with the target protein and suggest modifications to its structure that might improve its binding affinity or other important properties.
So it's like having an AI-powered chemistry tutor that can help you fine-tune your drug design and make it even better.
That's a great way to think about it. And this optimization process can be incredibly valuable because it can lead to drugs that are more effective, have fewer side effects, and are easier to manufacture and administer.
I can see how that would be a huge advantage. So we've got virtual screening and lead optimization. Are there any other ways AI is being used in structure-based drug design?
Absolutely. AI is also being used to predict the properties of potential drug candidates, such as their solubility, stability, and potential toxicity. This information is crucial for prioritizing compounds that are more likely to be successful in the later stages of drug development.
So it's about considering all aspects of a drug's behavior, not just its ability to bind to the target.
Right.
We want to make sure it's not only effective, but also safe, stable, and practical to use.
Exactly. It's about using AI to design drugs that are not just good in theory, but also good in practice.
This is all very impressive. What are some of the key advantages of using AI in structure-based drug design compared to more traditional methods?
Well, one of the most significant advantages is speed.
Okay.
AI can perform tasks like virtual screening and lead optimization much faster than humans can, which dramatically accelerates the drug discovery process. We can go from having a target to having a promising lead compound in a fraction of the time it used to take.
So it's that same theme of acceleration that we saw with AI-enhanced HTS. AI is speeding up every stage of the drug discovery pipeline.
Precisely. And it's not just about speed, it's also about accuracy.
Okay.
AI algorithms can often make more accurate predictions about drug target interactions and other properties than humans can, which can lead to more effective drug designs.
So AI is not just helping us do things faster, it's helping us do them better.
That's right. And that ultimately translates to better treatments for patients.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I'm sure there are some challenges and limitations to using AI in structure-based drug design, just like with any new technology.
Yeah.
What are some of the key hurdles that researchers are facing in this area?
One of the biggest challenges is the availability of high-quality structural data.
Okay.
AI models for SBDD rely on having accurate 3D structures of the target proteins. However, obtaining these structures can be challenging and time-consuming, especially for certain types of proteins.
So it's like trying to build a house without a blueprint. If we don't have a good understanding of the target structure, it's hard to design a drug that interacts with it effectively, no matter how powerful our AI tools are.
That's a great way to put it. Another challenge is the complexity of protein-drug interactions. Even with accurate structural data, it can be difficult to predict exactly how a drug will interact with a target protein in a living organism. There are so many factors at play: water molecules, other proteins, the dynamic environment of the cell that can influence how a drug behaves.
So it's like trying to predict the weather.
Yeah,
There are so many variables involved that it's impossible to be 100% accurate.
exactly. Biological systems are incredibly complex, and there's still a lot that we don't understand. And that's why experimental validation is still absolutely essential in structure-based drug design, just like with any other drug discovery approach. We can use AI to guide our design and prioritize our efforts, but ultimately we need to test these compounds in the lab and in clinical trials to make sure they're safe and effective.
This has been a really great overview of structure-based drug design. It's clearly a very powerful approach with the potential to design, highly targeted and effective drugs, but it's important to be aware of the limitations and challenges, just like with any new technology.
I completely agree. AI is a valuable tool, but it's not a magic solution. It's about using AI in a smart and responsible way, recognizing its strengths and limitations, and always remembering that the ultimate goal is to develop safe and effective treatments for patients.
Well said. Now, the research you provided also mentioned AI-driven compound repurposing as a promising approach for lead discovery and optimization. I'm really intrigued by this idea. Can you tell me more about how AI is being used to find new uses for existing drugs?
Absolutely. AI-driven compound repurposing is a really exciting area because it has the potential to significantly reduce the time and cost of developing new treatments.
Yeah.
So instead of starting from scratch to design a new drug, researchers are using AI to sift through libraries of existing drugs that have already been tested and approved for human use, to identify those that might be effective against a different disease or target.
So it's like taking a medication that's already on the pharmacy shelves and saying, hey, maybe this could also be helpful for this other condition.
Exactly. And this can be a much faster and more efficient way to bring new treatments to patients because we're essentially skipping many of the early stages of drug development, like safety testing and formulation development.
I can definitely see the appeal. But how does AI actually help with this repurposing process? How does it identify drugs that might be effective against a new target, even if they were originally designed for something completely different?
Well, AI can analyze a vast range of data to identify potential candidates for drug repurposing. This includes data about the chemical structures of drugs, their known targets and mechanisms of action, their side effects, and even data from clinical trials. By sifting through all this information, AI algorithms can identify patterns and relationships that might not be obvious to humans.
So it's like the AI is doing a massive cross-reference search, looking for unexpected connections between drugs and diseases that might have been missed by traditional methods.
That's a great way to think about it. AI can make those connections by finding subtle similarities in chemical structures or by identifying shared biological pathways that are involved in different diseases.
Okay, so the AI identifies some potential candidates for repurposing. What happens next? Do scientists just start testing those drugs in patients with the new condition?
Not quite. Just like with any new drug, even a repurposed drug needs to be thoroughly tested to make sure it's safe and effective for the new indication. So once a potential candidate has been identified, it's tested in the lab to confirm its activity against the new target. And if those lab tests look promising, the drug would then need to go through clinical trials to ensure its safety and efficacy in humans.
So while AI can dramatically speed up the process by identifying promising candidates for repurposing, it doesn't replace the need for rigorous testing and clinical trials.
Exactly. AI is a powerful tool for accelerating the drug discovery process, but it's not a shortcut. It's about using AI to guide research and make the process more efficient and effective, but always prioritizing patient safety and scientific rigor.
It all sounds very promising.
Yeah.
What are some of the key advantages of using AI in compound repurposing beyond the speed and efficiency that we've already discussed?
Well, one of the biggest advantages is that it can significantly reduce the cost of drug development.
Right.
Developing a new drug from scratch is incredibly expensive, often costing billions of dollars and taking many years. Repurposing an existing drug can dramatically reduce those costs because we're essentially skipping many of the most expensive and time-consuming steps in the process.
That makes a lot of sense. Lower drug development costs could lead to more affordable treatments for patients and could also free up resources to pursue more challenging diseases or develop even more innovative treatments.
Exactly. And another big advantage of AI-driven compound repurposing is that it can help us identify repurposing opportunities that might have been missed by traditional methods. AI algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data and find connections that human researchers might overlook.
So it's like having an AI detective that can sift through the evidence and uncover hidden clues that we might have missed.
That's a great analogy, and that's what makes this approach so exciting. It's about using AI to unlock the hidden potential of existing drugs and find new ways to use them to benefit patients.
This is all incredibly exciting, but I'm also aware that there are always challenges and limitations with any new technology, and I'm sure AI-driven compound repurposing is no exception.
What are some of the key hurdles that researchers are facing in this area?
One of the biggest challenges is data bias. As with any machine learning application, the quality of the data used to train the models is critical. If the data is biased, for example, if it's primarily based on studies conducted in a certain population or using a certain type of methodology, then the AI model's predictions will also be biased.
So it's important to make sure that the AI is learning from a diverse and representative data set that accurately reflects the real world.
Absolutely. And that's not always easy to do.
Mm.
Another challenge is the complexity of biological systems. Even if a drug is effective against one target, it might not be effective against a different target, even if those targets are similar in structure or function. And even if a drug works for one condition, it might not work for another, even if the underlying biological mechanism seems similar. So there's still a lot of unpredictability when it comes to how a drug will behave in a living organism, even with the help of AI.
That's right. Biology is incredibly complex, and we're still learning so much about how drugs interact with the body. That's why experimental validation is always essential, even with the most promising AI-generated predictions. We need to test these repurposed drugs in the lab and in clinical trials to make sure they're safe and effective for their new intended use.
This has been a really fascinating overview of AI-driven compound repurposing. It's clear that this approach has the potential to accelerate drug discovery, reduce costs, and bring new treatments to patients faster. But it's also important to be aware of the challenges and limitations and to use AI in a responsible and ethical way.
I couldn't agree more. AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a substitute for scientific rigor and careful consideration of the ethical implications.
Okay, we've now covered three major approaches to lead discovery and optimization: AI-enhanced high-throughput screening, structure-based drug design, and AI-driven compound repurposing. It's amazing to see how AI is being used to make this stage of drug discovery faster, more efficient, and more successful. But before we move on to the next topic, can we take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far? What are some of the key takeaways for our listener about how AI is transforming lead discovery and optimization?
One of the biggest takeaways is that AI is no longer a futuristic concept in drug discovery. It's being used right now to make real progress, bringing new treatments to patients faster and more efficiently.
That's a really important point. It's not about waiting for some distant future where AI will revolutionize medicine. It's happening right now.
Another key takeaway is that AI is not a magic bullet. It's a powerful tool, but it has limitations. It's important to understand those limitations, use AI appropriately, and always be aware of the ethical considerations.
So it's not about replacing scientists with robots. It's about giving scientists the tools they need to be more effective and to explore new possibilities that wouldn't be possible without AI.
Exactly. AI is about augmenting human intelligence, not replacing it.
Okay, so AI is here, it's powerful, but it has limitations. What else should our listener take away from this discussion about lead discovery and optimization?
Well, I think it's important to emphasize that AI is not just about speed and efficiency. It's also about opening up new avenues for drug discovery. AI can help us find new drug targets, design new drugs, and repurpose existing drugs in ways that we might never have imagined before.
So AI is not just about doing things faster and cheaper. It's also about doing things differently, about thinking outside the box, and about expanding the boundaries of what's possible in drug discovery.
That's precisely it, and that's what makes this field so incredibly exciting. We're just at the beginning of this AI revolution in drug discovery, and the potential is truly enormous.
I love that perspective. It's a reminder that we're not just optimizing existing processes, we're creating something entirely new and transformative. Now, we've talked a lot about the different ways AI is being used in lead discovery and optimization, but I'm also curious about how researchers evaluate the performance of these AI models? What are the key metrics that they're looking at to determine if an AI model is actually doing a good job at finding and optimizing potential drug candidates?
That's a great question. Just like with target identification, evaluating AI models in lead discovery and optimization is crucial to ensure that they're reliable and effective. And the specific metrics used will depend on the specific approach being used, but some common themes emerge across these different approaches.
Okay, so let's break it down by approach. What are some of the key metrics used to evaluate AI models for AI-enhanced high-throughput screening?
For AI-enhanced HTS, one of the most important metrics is hit rate. This refers to the percentage of compounds identified by the AI that are actually active against the target when tested in the lab. A higher hit rate means the AI model is doing a good job of prioritizing promising compounds and helping scientists focus their experimental efforts on the most likely candidates.
So it's about finding those needles in the haystack.
Yeah.
And the higher the hit rate, the more efficient and cost-effective the process becomes. What other metrics are important in evaluating AI models for HTS?
Researchers also look at things like enrichment factor and precision. Enrichment factor measures how much better the AI model is at identifying active compounds compared to just randomly selecting compounds. It tells us how much value the AI is adding to the process.
So we want an AI model that can significantly outperform random chance, demonstrating that it's truly learning from the data and making intelligent predictions. What about precision? How does that factor into the evaluation?
Precision measures how many of the compounds identified by the AI are actually active. We want a model that not only identifies active compounds, but also minimizes the number of false positives, those compounds that the AI predicts will be active, but that turn out to be duds in the lab.
It sounds like it's a balancing act.
Right.
We want a model that can cast a wide net and identify potential hits, but we also want it to be selective and avoid wasting time and resources on false leads.
What about structure-based drug design? What are some of the key metrics used to evaluate AI models in that context?
For SBDD, one of the most important metrics is binding affinity. This refers to how strongly a drug candidate binds to the target protein.
Okay.
The stronger the binding affinity, the more likely the drug is to be effective. AI models for SBDD are often evaluated based on how well they can predict the binding affinity of different compounds.
So it's about finding those compounds that really stick to the target, like a key fitting snugly into a lock. What other factors are considered when evaluating AI models for SBDD?
Researchers also look at things like pharmacokinetic properties and toxicity. Pharmacokinetic properties refer to how a drug is absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and excreted by the body. These properties are crucial for determining how a drug will behave in the body and whether it's likely to reach its target at effective concentrations. So it's not just about binding to the target. It's also about making sure the drug candidate can actually get to the target and stay there long enough to do its job. What about toxicity? How is that evaluated in the context of SBDD?
AI models can also be used to predict the potential toxicity of drug candidates. This is a crucial step in the drug discovery process because we obviously want to avoid developing drugs that are likely to cause harmful side effects.
That makes perfect sense. So it's not just about designing a drug that binds to the target. It's also about ensuring that the drug candidate has the right properties to be effective and safe in the body. Now, what about AI-driven compound repurposing? How are those models evaluated?
For compound repurposing, one key metric is novelty. This refers to how unexpected or surprising the repurposing prediction is.
Okay.
If the AI is just identifying repurposing opportunities that are already well known, it's not really adding much value to the process.
So it's about finding those hidden gems, those repurposing opportunities that might have been missed by traditional methods, because the connections between the drug and the new indication are not immediately obvious.
Exactly. We want the AI to help us think outside the box and identify repurposing opportunities that we might never have considered otherwise.
What other factors are considered when evaluating AI models for compound repurposing?
Researchers also look at things like clinical relevance and translatability. This means considering how likely it is that the repurposed drug will be effective in humans and whether it can be easily translated into a clinical setting.
So it's not just about finding a connection between a drug and a disease in a data set. It's about finding connections that have real-world implications for patients.
Absolutely. That's what ultimately matters in drug discovery, finding treatments that can truly benefit patients.
This has been a really helpful overview of how AI models are evaluated in lead discovery and optimization. It's clear that evaluating these models involves a lot more than just looking at whether a model can identify active compounds or predict binding affinity. It's about considering all aspects of a drug's behavior and its potential to benefit patients.
I completely agree. It's about using a variety of metrics to get a comprehensive picture of the AI model's performance and to ensure that it's truly adding value to the drug discovery process.
Now that we've explored target identification and lead discovery and optimization, I'm eager to move on to the next crucial stage of drug development, predicting a drug's ADM properties and potential toxicity. I know from the research you share that AI is playing a growing role in this area as well. Can you give us an overview of how AI is being used to make those predictions?
Sure. AI is changing the game in predicting a drug's ADMET properties, which stands for absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, and toxicity. These properties are absolutely critical in drug development because they tell us how a drug will behave in the body, how it's absorbed into the bloodstream, where it travels in the body, how it's broken down and eliminated, and most importantly, whether it's likely to cause harmful side effects.
Wow, that's a lot to consider. So how does AI help us get a handle on all of these crucial properties?
Traditionally, predicting ADMET properties involved a lot of lab testing, which could be time-consuming, expensive, and often required using animal models. Now, AI algorithms are stepping in, allowing us to analyze vast data sets of chemical structures, biological activity, and toxicological data to build predictive models that can estimate a drug's ADMET properties early on in the development process.
So instead of doing all those expensive and time-consuming lab tests, we can use AI to get a pretty good idea of a drug's ADMET profile before we even start testing it in animals or humans. That seems incredibly efficient.
Exactly. And that efficiency can save a lot of time and money in the long run. It also allows researchers to identify potential problems early on before investing a lot of resources into a drug candidate that might turn out to be problematic from an ADMET perspective.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about failing fast and feeling cheap, as they say in the startup world.
Right.
If we can identify those potential red flags early on, we can avoid wasting time and resources on drugs that are unlikely to be successful.
Yeah.
But how exactly does AI make these predictions? What kind of data is involved, and what types of algorithms are being used to analyze that data?
The data used to train these AI models comes from a variety of sources. It can include information about the chemical structures of drugs, their known pharmacological properties, their interactions with various enzymes and transporters that are involved in drug metabolism and elimination, and any available data about their toxicity in cells, animals, or humans.
So it's like building a comprehensive profile of a drug, using all the information we have available, from its chemical structure to its known biological activities and any potential safety concerns.
That's a great way to put it. It's about gathering as much information as possible and then using AI to sift through that information and extract meaningful insights about the drug's likely ADM-BET profile.
I can see how that would be a very powerful approach.
Right.
Now, what about the algorithms themselves? Are we seeing those same familiar faces like GNNs and CNNs showing up in this area as well?
You bet. Graph neural networks are incredibly useful here, especially when analyzing the chemical structures of drugs and their interactions with biological targets. But we also see other types of models being used, such as random forests, support vector machines, and deep neural networks.
It seems like there's a whole arsenal of AI tools available for predicting ADMET properties.
There is.
But I'm really curious about the accuracy of these models. How good are they at actually predicting how a drug will behave in the body?
That's a great question. The accuracy of these models is constantly improving as more data becomes available and the algorithms become more sophisticated. But even with the current models, we're seeing some really impressive results. Some studies have shown that AI models can predict certain ADMET properties, like toxicity, with an accuracy that rivals traditional lab testing methods.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. It sounds like AI is really starting to live up to its potential in this area. But as with any new technology, I'm sure there are still challenges and limitations to be aware of. What are some of the key hurdles that researchers are facing when using AI to predict ADMET properties and toxicity?
One of the biggest challenges is, once again, data quality.
Okay.
As with any machine learning application, the quality of the data is paramount. If the data is incomplete, inaccurate, or biased, the model's predictions will suffer. And in the case of ADMET properties, the stakes are particularly high because we're talking about predicting potential risks to human health.
So it's not just about having a lot of data. It's about having good data that's accurate, reliable, and representative of the population we're interested in. And that can be a real challenge in the world of drug development, where data is often scattered across different sources, collected using different methods, and subject to various biases.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Data quality is a constant battle in this field. Another challenge is the sheer complexity of biological systems. ADMET properties are influenced by a multitude of factors, including genetics, age, lifestyle, overall health, and even interaction with other drugs a person might be taking. It's incredibly difficult to capture all of this complexity in a single AI model.
So it's like trying to predict the weather.
Yeah,
There are so many variables involved that it's impossible to be 100% accurate all the time.
that's a great analogy. And that's why it's so important to use AI predictions in conjunction with other information, including lab testing, clinical data, and expert judgment. AI can provide valuable insights and guidance, but it's not a replacement for human expertise and the need for careful evaluation of all available evidence.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about using AI as a tool to guide research and decision-making, not as a replacement for traditional methods or the expertise of scientists and clinicians.
Exactly. AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet. It's about using AI in a smart and responsible way, recognizing its strengths and limitations, and always remembering that the ultimate goal is to develop safe and effective treatments for patients.
This has been a fascinating overview of how AI is being used to predict ADMET properties and toxicity. It's clear that AI has the potential to revolutionize this aspect of drug discovery, but it's also important to be aware of the challenges and limitations.
I couldn't agree more. As with any AI application in drug discovery, it's about using AI strategically and thoughtfully to augment human expertise and make the drug development process more efficient, effective, and ultimately more successful at delivering life-saving treatments to those who need them.
Well said. Now, I'm really curious to hear about how AI is being used in clinical trials.
Yeah.
The research you provided touches on this area, and it's a stage of drug development where I think AI has the potential to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about how AI is being applied in clinical trials? What are some of the most exciting applications?
AI is indeed making its presence felt in clinical trials, and it's exciting to see how this technology is transforming this critical stage of drug development. There are several ways AI is being applied right now, with even more possibilities on the horizon.
I'm eager to hear about them. What are some of the ways that AI is being used right now in clinical trials?
One of the most promising applications is in patient recruitment and selection. Clinical trials often face challenges in recruiting and retaining enough participants, especially for rare diseases or trials that require very specific patient characteristics. AI is helping to streamline this process and make it more efficient by identifying eligible patients more effectively.
That makes sense. Finding the right patients for a trial can be like finding a needle in a haystack, especially for those rare or highly specific conditions. How does AI help us narrow down that search and connect with the right patients?
AI can analyze patient data from a variety of sources, including electronic health records, medical claims databases, and even social media, to identify potential candidates who meet the trial's inclusion criteria. This can significantly reduce the time and cost of patient recruitment, making it easier to get those potentially life-saving treatments into the hands of those who need them.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's like having an AI matchmaker that can connect patients with the right clinical trials based on their specific medical history and needs. What other tasks can AI help with in the clinical trial process? Another important application is in trial design and optimization.
Okay.
AI algorithms can analyze data from past trials to identify factors that influence success or failure, such as patient demographics, dosage regimens, and treatment durations. This information can then be used to design more effective and efficient trials, increasing the likelihood of success and reducing the time and cost associated with bringing new drugs to market.
So it's about learning from past experiences, both successes and failures, and using that knowledge to design better trials in the future. It sounds like AI can really help us avoid making the same mistakes twice and make the most of every trial.
Exactly. By optimizing trial design, AI can help reduce the time and cost of clinical trials, which ultimately benefits both researchers and patients.
That's a huge win for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Are there any other ways AI is making a difference in the world of clinical trials?
AI is also proving to be incredibly valuable for monitoring patient safety and identifying potential adverse events during a trial. AI algorithms can analyze data from a variety of sources, such as electronic health records, lab results, and wearable sensors, to detect patterns that might indicate a safety concern.
That sounds like a really important application. Catching potential problems early on could help protect patients and potentially even save lives.
You're absolutely right. Early detection of adverse events is crucial for ensuring patient safety in clinical trials. And AI can play a significant role in this by automating the monitoring process and identifying subtle patterns in the data that human observers might miss.
This is all very impressive. It seems like AI has the potential to truly revolutionize clinical trials, making them faster, more efficient, safer, and ultimately more successful at bringing new and effective treatments to patients. But as with any new technology, there are always challenges and limitations. What are some of the key hurdles that researchers are facing when it comes to using AI in this context?
One of the biggest challenges in using AI in clinical trials is data privacy and security.
Okay.
Clinical trials involve sensitive patient data, and it's crucial to ensure that this data is handled responsibly and ethically. We need to make sure that we're using AI in a way that protects patient privacy and maintains confidentiality.
That's definitely a top priority. It's about striking that balance between using AI to improve clinical trials and protecting patient privacy. Are there any other challenges that researchers are grappling with in this area?
Another challenge is the need for regulatory clarity. The use of AI in clinical trials is still relatively new, and regulatory agencies like the FDA are still developing guidelines for how to use AI responsibly and ethically in this context. This lack of clear guidance can create uncertainty for researchers and companies who are trying to incorporate AI into their clinical trial workflows.
It sounds like it's a bit of the Wild West out there right now, with everyone excited about the potential of AI, but not quite sure what the rules of the road are yet.
That's a good way to put it. And this lack of clarity can sometimes slow down progress in the field. If researchers and companies aren't sure what's required from a regulatory perspective, they might be hesitant to fully embrace AI-driven approaches in clinical trials.
I can see how that would be a roadblock. It's important for regulatory agencies to provide clear guidance so that researchers can feel confident that they're using AI in a way that's safe, effective, and compliant with all the relevant regulations. Are there any other challenges that come to mind when you think about using AI in clinical trials?
Another challenge is the need for explainability and transparency. AI models, especially those deep learning models, can be quite complex, and it's important to be able to understand how they're making their predictions, especially when we're talking about clinical trials that involve human patients. We need to be able to trust the predictions made by these AI models, and that trust is built on transparency and understanding.
So it's that same need for explainable AI or XAI that we've been talking about throughout this deep dive.
Exactly. We need to be able to open up the black box of AI and understand how it's arriving at its conclusions. This is crucial not only for building trust among researchers and regulators, but also for ensuring that patients feel comfortable and confident participating in clinical trials that involve AI.
This has been a fascinating overview of how AI is being used in clinical trials. It's clear that AI has the potential to truly transform this stage of drug development, but it's also important to be aware of these challenges and to proceed with caution, ensuring that AI is being used responsibly and ethically.
I wholeheartedly agree. It's an exciting time to be working in this field, but it's also a time for thoughtful reflection and careful consideration of the potential risks and benefits of this powerful technology.
We've covered a lot of ground today exploring how AI is being used in target identification, lead discovery and optimization, ADM and toxicity prediction, and clinical trials. It's clear that AI is having a profound impact on every stage of the drug discovery process.
It really is, and I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. As AI technology continues to evolve and mature, I'm confident that we'll see even more groundbreaking advances in the years to come.
I'm really excited to see what the future holds. But before we get too carried away with all the amazing potential of AI, I want to take a moment to talk about some of the broader challenges and limitations surrounding the use of AI in drug discovery. The ebook you shared highlights several key issues that are worth discussing. Are you ready to dive into those?
Absolutely. Well, I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of AI in drug discovery. It's crucial to be realistic and to acknowledge that there are still hurdles to overcome.
Okay, so let's start with one of the biggest challenges, access to data. The ebook mentions that this is a major bottleneck for AI-driven drug discovery. Can you elaborate on why that is?
You're right. Access to data is absolutely essential for training and validating those powerful AI models we've been talking about. But unfortunately, getting access to high-quality, relevant data can be a major challenge for several reasons.
Let's unpack that. What are some of the specific reasons why data access is such a problem in this field? What's preventing researchers from easily accessing the data they need to train and validate their AI models?
One of the biggest issues is that a lot of the data that's needed to train these AI models is proprietary. It's owned by pharmaceutical companies, biotech firms, or research institutions, and they're often hesitant to share that data with others.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
They've invested a lot of time and money into generating that data, and they see it as a competitive advantage. They don't want to give their competitors a leg up.
Exactly. And this lack of data sharing can be a real obstacle to progress. If researchers can't access the data they need to train and validate their models, it's difficult to develop those robust and reliable AI tools that we need to truly revolutionize drug discovery.
So it's a bit of a catch-22. We need more data sharing to accelerate progress. But companies are reluctant to share their data because they see it as a competitive asset. What other factors contribute to this data access problem?
Another issue is data fragmentation. Even when data is available, it's often scattered across different sources, stored in different formats, and collected using different methods. This lack of standardization makes it very difficult to integrate and analyze data effectively.
So it's like trying to put together a puzzle where all the pieces are from different puzzles.
That's a great way to put it. It can be a logistical nightmare trying to wrangle all of that data into a usable format. And this lack of standardization and integration makes it incredibly challenging to build those large, comprehensive data sets that are needed to train truly powerful AI models.
Okay, so we've got proprietary data and fragmented data as two major barriers to data access. Are there any other issues that researchers need to be aware of?
Another challenge is data quality. Not all data is created equal. Some data sets might be incomplete, inaccurate, or contain errors that could skew the results. And if you're training an AI model on bad data, you're going to get unreliable predictions.
So it's not just about having access to a lot of data, it's about having access to high-quality data that's accurate, reliable, and relevant to the task at hand.
Absolutely. And ensuring data quality is a major challenge in itself. It requires careful data curation, validation, and cleaning, which can be time-consuming and resource-intensive, but it's an essential step if we want to build AI models that we can trust.
This has been a really insightful discussion about the challenges of data access in AI-driven drug discovery. It's clear that this is a critical issue that needs to be addressed if we want to fully realize the potential of AI in this field. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of AI, but it's also important to acknowledge that there are limitations and challenges, and that AI is not a magic solution.
I agree. AI is a powerful tool, but it's important to use it wisely, to be aware of its limitations, and to always focus on the ultimate goal, developing safe and effective treatments for patients.
This has been a fantastic deep dive into the world of AI-driven drug discovery. We've explored how AI is transforming every stage of the process, from target identification to lead discovery and optimization, ADMET and toxicity prediction, and clinical trials. We've also talked about some of the challenges and the limitations that we need to be aware of as we move forward with this powerful technology. I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure. I'm always excited to talk about the incredible potential of AI in drug discovery.
And to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and inspiring. As we've learned today, AI is already having a profound impact on drug discovery, and the future is full of exciting possibilities. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those important questions.